My name is Terry. I'm from Virginia, and I got out of the Navy. I waited a few months or several months, I guess, and then I realized you could work at the shipyards. And my cousin lived in Jacksonville already, so that was really nice. And then I moved on down and stayed over there with them. And I got my job at the shipyard, but it was a long way to work. So I asked around, and people said, yeah, there's rooms up there, but it's very dangerous. Well, I'd already been in the Navy, so I waited, and then a guy said, no, if you stay in at night and don't bother people, it's not too bad. So I went up, and I met Miss Betty Goodyear. You look in the paper, hell, it was in 79, I moved to Jacksonville. By 80, I went over and got my room, okay, and I met Mrs. and let me get my janitor, and in came Ottis Toole. And I didn't think anything at all. I could tell when he said hello that he was possibly a big gay man, maybe a big gay person, gay guy. And I said hello, and he said, come on, follow me. And he told me the rules. Please don't throw trash. And the trash is this day, and don't cause trouble, and don't be late on the rent. And it was reasonable. I didn't see anything wrong with it. And as we walked closer to my building and the room, he said, if there's any trouble, don't get involved. I got a gun. He said, you send for me and I'll take care of it. We don't want nobody bothering the buildings. And he seemed like he liked his job, and he was friendly to me. So I didn't act any way to him. And I also say this in my transcripts. He was a Southern country gay gentleman. Okay, he was polite, gay, Southern gentleman. And when he got done, and then we opened the door, and he said, anything else? I said, no, buddy, thank you very much. I said, have a great day. And man, did he just stop and smile at me. He said, and you have a great day too. So I noticed right then that he liked polite conversation. So I kept it that way because I needed that room. Man, it was the closest one. It was on First Street. And this is what I want to tell you about that Jacksonville area. The further you went up in there, the more dangerous it was. My buddy lived on 10th Street, and there was a certain way to walk there, which was up Main. Never go in the alleys. But anyway, I got in my room, and I went to work, and had little to do with Ottis Toole for the next 2 or 3 months. It was friendly conversation, and he was in the building a lot. I'd come out to go to work, and he's already mopping and sweeping, and like I said, I like that because I wanted to get along. And I said, good morning, bro, how are you? And man, he liked that, and he would respond in kind. So he was a very nice person up front like that. And then later I realized if you crossed him, of course you're going to be, and if you didn't pay your rent, he'd come and if you're not there, they break the door down or break it in and then they throw your stuff out. So there was the meeting of Ottis Toole, and I was just glad that I didn't want to move away right away because the guys told me, you're not going to like it. I said, well, I'm tired of driving or I didn't have a car. I'm tired of worrying about getting to work, but my room was okay. One thing I want to say about Ottis Toole, back to him, I can remember my transcripts. I never mentioned it for a long time because I had to reread it. I went, oh, that's right. Now, look, he did proposition the tenants sometimes, and he did me one time. He said, do you need anything else? In that gay way. I said, no, Ottis, thank you. And he left. Something was wrong with the refrigerator or whatever. And then he knocked again, and I said, Ottis, I have a girlfriend. No, thank you. And he left. He bowed and left. And then, I stood there. I thought, if he knocks again, I'm not going to make a problem. I'm going to, maybe move within a little while. No, he never came back. And he never propositioned again. And this is what I want to show you. My buddy from Vermont, I was 21 or 2. He was 20 because I used to be the youngest. And then the guy from Vermont came. And he helped him. Oh, and he said that. He propositioned him one time and shut up. So I said, well, good. As long as, if a gay person propositions, whatever, you just say, no, thank you. And so he did that. And later we kind of become friends is what I'm saying. And with me being younger, he treated me like a younger brother because he was 32 or 3 and I was 22. 21 or 2, so he was like 32. So yeah, he did treat the younger guys. I guess he wanted, ask for sex, then but then he would be your friend. And actually, he helped the Vermont guy. This is what I want to show you. The boy didn't have his money yet. He was still working, and the landlady said, "Park your car beside of Terry's a building, and Terry, will you please look in on him down from the window?" He couldn't come in the building, but park your car because you couldn't be on the street. And Otis asked me, "Terry, you watch out for him because that's dangerous outside." Anyway, he made it. That I forget his name, buddy. I never wrote it down, but I remembered where he was from, and he had a Chevy Impala, an old Chevy Impala. Now remember, this was 79, 80, so his Chevy Impala was a 69, or it was a nice old Chevy Impala. And anyway, he got his money and got a room. That was okay, that's that part. Wanted to tell you about Otis not really being a predator around the tenants. He was very protective of everything: buildings, people, the tenants, the buildings, the children.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I always had trouble about him killing that little boy in Hollywood.
Adam Walsh.
He might have done it now, but yes, that.
But let me ask you, all the news reports are
Yes,
claiming that he had an IQ of 75. Do you think that was accurate?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I tell you, in my transcripts, I remember the word chameleon, and I remembered why I wrote that years later, because whoever he was around, what is that other term, of mice and men,
Mm-hmm.
Henry Lucas was man, Ottis Toole was the mouse. That's exactly how I seen it when I got older. As a young man, I had no concepts yet because I was too young. See, that's been 43 or 4 years ago. It's been a long time. So I've had a lot of time to mature and think. But yeah, that's what it was. And Otis's IQ absolutely was probably like that. And like I said, when I would say, "Hello, Otis, how are you, brother?" Well, he would just perk up and he would be like me. "I'm just fine, brother. How are you today?" And I said, "Hey, Otis, have a great day today, buddy." He would say the same thing. Really.
How would you characterize Henry Lee Lucas?
No, there I haven't even started with him yet. That's what I was waiting. Okay. There's your real murderer, killer, rapist, right there. I knew years later when I reread and I got older and more mature, he was a highwayman, they call, right? Highwayman robber. He would travel and remember, and well, hell, he started doing this in the early 70s. There's no videos and there's no security back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got used to this, in my opinion, and even Ottis Toole told me things, and I'll go back to that. But you asked me, okay, yeah. From what I read about all of him, then by knowing him, it made sense. He was a highwayman, robber, opportunist. He would shoot you, man, and then he would rape your wife and shoot her, and then rob the place and just roll down the road and not say a word. Ottis Toole told me that one time on the porch. And years later, I mean, it was like a lead weight, but it didn't hurt. I was like, damn, I didn't even realize. He was looking off into the city because we lived on First Street. The city's right there. Then the neighborhood starts. So he's staring down into town. And I walk up from work, and you ought to see this house. Beautiful Southern Victorian mansion with the wraparound porch. And he's leaning on the post, and I walk up, and I said, "Hey, buddy." I said, "Hello, bro. How are you today?" Well, sometimes, brother, when things were bothering him, no, he didn't respond in kind. So I knew something was bothering him. I didn't want to ask. I just slowed down, and finally he said, "You know something? Henry Lucas just shoots people first. I talk to them." And I'm standing there going, "No, okay." I was thinking, well, what the hell happened today? I mean, I was looking around like, well, what happened? And then he walked away. I didn't say anything. I went in my building. And years later, I was like, God damn it, man. He was even trying to tell people about what they were doing. I think he was referring to the time outside of Jacksonville, they had shot a gentleman, an older guy, and he had one arm, okay? He had a missing hand and arm part.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person that knew it was Ottis. When the police interviewed him, and I caught it all, and so did the police, of course, because they come to our neighborhood that day. And anyway, Ottis said he said, Henry just walked right in there and shot the guy right in the chest. Never said a word. And of course, later they asked him, well, how do we know about what you're saying, Ottis Toole? Oh, he had one arm. Well, hell, they never released that. So see, what Ottis was saying about Henry was true. He just murders people, rapes and robs, and he doesn't say anything while he's doing it, but after he does it, then he'll laugh. We got money now, don't we? We got some sex, didn't we? Or something like that. I'm like, oh my God. See, that's what I was trying to picture, all the things that Ottis had said that didn't make any sense until, it was already too late.
Yeah, in hindsight.
So after,
Did you met any family members of Ottis Toole?
No, I didn't want to, but I seen that young lady. Yes, I knew that girl Becky. Not know her, for goodness sake. She was only like 14 when I seen her. The girl Becky followed him around sometimes, and we seen him. Like I said, bro, earlier when we were talking, I was smart enough and mature. I mean, I was responsible enough that I did say stuff to people. And the only thing I said a few times within several months was, my God, I wonder if the police know about what these guys are talking about. Because, buddy, they would say in public and laugh, we kill people, we eat people, we do what we want. And laugh. And everybody's like, well, it is the city. I don't know. Maybe that's how they talk here. But anyway, yes, I never talked to Becky, of course. I don't remember ever talking to her. And there was another boy and their other entourage that they had. I felt sorry for them. We all felt sorry, but what could we do?
No, yeah, I read that the grandmother of Ottis Toole was actually a generational Satanist.
Oh, there you go. Now that I heard about, yes, when I was on the neighborhood, but I didn't know her, never met her, but I did hear that. But I want to also say that I believe Ottis Toole was playing around. That's all. Like I said, of Mice and Men. Did you ever see the movie of Mice and Men?
I don't think so, no.
Or do you know the term? Okay, well, that's where there was a buddy. There was two friends. One of them was basically he was mentally retarded. Very mentally retarded, and he was a great, big, strong guy. And the other guy was a well-rounded, mature male. He didn't want trouble, but his buddy had killed somebody. And anyway, it was a mentally retarded person, is what I say, is about Ottis Toole, and then Henry Lucas was the brains of it. Well, the other term I used was, do you remember about Butch? Hey, Butch, what do you want to do today? And the little dog's running around him. Butch is a big tough guy. Butch is a strong guy.
Yeah.
And the other dog is a puppy, and he's running around. Oh, buddy, what are we going to do today? That's what Ottis Toole and Henry Lucas was like.
Were there also like big rumors that he was doing grave robbing and he was an arsonist, Ottis Toole?
Yes, he burnt some things, but like I said, buddy, as I watched him, I was there a year before he got arrested. I paid rent the day he got arrested. Me and Mrs. Goodyear talked about it. Like, golly, man, we knew. But I didn't see any of that. I still say he was acting a lot. See, he wanted to be famous and popular, and he wanted to get money. I think after he got busted, and when him and Lucas did all that bull crap, I listened to the interviews on, because guys, I knew him. So that's why I used to tell people, man, I wish I could see some of the videos of them with the cops. I'll tell you, I can't tell if they're telling the truth, but I can tell you if they're bullshitting. That's what I mean to say. I could tell. That's why if I could see Ottis Toole on his deathbed, when he talk about, if he said that he killed that little boy, I'd like to see it and see if he was like high on the drugs that you take when you die. Remember, you get medicated when you're dying, okay, the last day on your deathbed.
Tranquilizers.
I think he's lying, bro. I think he's, in my opinion. Now, I know Adam Walsh's father has taken closure, so I would not want to, I'm not saying anything, for God's sakes. If there was anything I could, one time I heard about 20 years later, one of my buddies was over there, and he knew people. He knew them people, but I don't remember that. And he was telling me I lived up north. He said, guess where I went? I said, where? I said, over there in that neighborhood where the Toole and Lucas was. My aunt lives there. And he said, the neighborhood said that, my God, after they found out that Ottis might have killed that little boy, they said they would have found him hanging in the trees. And I'm not joking. You know, no, the gang would have did it. See, there's gangs in them cities, bro. And I got to know the gang in my neighborhood. That was dangerous. I got a whole, that's another story. Got a whole deal about them guys. Toole offered me a gun one day. Toole said, you want my gun? I said, well, Toole, they're in there and I'm out here. No, I don't think I need it. So I didn't take it. I was like, my God. But anyway, Henry Lucas. Yes, he was a very bad person, man. Let me tell you something. When you're a young man, 21, and I got out of the Navy, okay. You know, I went in at 17, guys, so I had to jump on life. I got out at like 20, you know, 21, I was out. And I had a good job, and I felt sorry for Henry when I first seen him. Can you imagine that? I felt sorry for him. Walking up the street. Now, he's older than me, but I still felt sorry for him because no eye. Oh, he had no glass eye in and no patch. He looked hideous, for God's sakes. And his teeth missing and brown and ugly. But we, all of us in that era, we tried to be friendly to people. And anyway, after listening to him talk for 10 minutes, I didn't want to be his friend no more, and I got away from him. And I had trouble with him, but I didn't bite the bait. And listen, anybody, I'm a good fighter, but that's beside the point, okay? I'm going to punch this guy with one eye and no teeth, you know, beat up on this guy. But the trick is he'd have killed you, you know, because I didn't have a gun. I wasn't going to hurt him. If he would have tried to do something to me, I might have punched him. But then I thought, oh my God, I wouldn't want to punch that poor old guy. But then now I think about it. Yeah, I wish they'd have hung him in the trees. No, not me. But that's what the neighborhood said, that my God, if they'd have known what they were doing, they'd have woke up one day and come out, because the trees in that neighborhood were beautiful. It was an old southern area. Oh my God, the trees were 200 feet tall or something. You know, they were 6 foot thick and 8 foot thick. Then that's what they said. They said they'd have found them hanging in them big trees out there. And I said, well, it's too late now. You know, they got away with all that murdering. But yeah, Henry Lucas was killing people in front of Ottis Toole, and it was driving him crazy. I could see it. He'd come in, what's that called? Unstable. A couple times I've seen him. He was so unstable that it made me get away from him. I never partied with them guys. Hell, I come and go. That's what I'm saying. And all my friends. Now listen, there's one guy, Jonathan. Now the only way I can describe it, I don't care about this, but this is a body mark. And he's a local guy. See, I'm from Virginia. They accepted me, but it took a few months. You never go anywhere like that and jump in on people. You got to be careful. So his name was Jonathan. He was a local guy, my age, but he had he had with a cleft lip, but he had the surgery, so it didn't look real bad. But he talked different, and he was a nice person, so he became our friend. He was in our little group, and he was a young guy. But he drank with them guys, and I had to say, man, what are y'all doing? He said, oh, we just drink. I said, okay, Jonathan. But see, Ottis Toole was a local boy. He's a local boy from right around that area, I guess. They said his mother had a house on 2nd or 3rd Street, but I didn't know his family.
I think his family was actually a little bit upper class, or at least middle class, right? They had an expensive home.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You should have seen their house. Like I said, these are them Victorians. They're usually 3 stories. In Florida, there's not many basements, so yeah, there was no basement, I think. But anyway, yeah, 3 stories, like my building. It was a Victorian mansion, and on the 2nd floor there was the dining room, and that's the one I got. I had to pay the most money for it, but bro, it had 12-foot ceilings, and it was like 6 or 8 rooms. You know, it was a dining room for the great big rich house, and that was my room. Yeah. So yeah, Ottis Toole's family were not completely poor. You know something? He seemed like a good worker. There's another thing that people would ask, because I worked. I got up and went to work 5 days a week, 6 days, and he was doing his job, cleaning, working, cutting the trees and trimming and mowing the grass and
Yeah.
hollering at the kids to get out of the road and shooing the kids away. And so anyway, he seemed more normal than Henry Lucas. Henry Lucas was a bad person, bro.
Excuse me. Let me ask you.
Yes.
Have you heard about the book *The Hand of Death* by author Max Call? That they are making allegations about being members of a nationwide satanic cult in human trafficking, drug dealing, human sacrifices.
Yes. I think that's a fantasy dream between Henry and Otis, in my opinion. Now, they may have spoke to some Satanists and they were playing around, but they were so disorganized and unorganized that to me is theoretically impossible.
But there was a place in the Florida Everglades.
Yes. Well, let me reiterate. They were so downtrodden. They were so filthy, dirty people that I don't even think the Satanists would deal with them, if you understand what I'm saying. A lot of these Satanists, now in my opinion, because I'm a Christian man, brother, since I was 5. And I studied the Bible. So anyway, I'm a very happy person and I love my religion. But I've read too. No, I don't see it. I don't see it. That's all. And I don't see that hand. I worked all over Florida. I was in Hollywood, Florida, working for the Olympics was coming. Yeah, and we were working on the electronics when the jet crashed in the Everglades, and some of the people left. That was really close. So yeah, I even worked in Hollywood. I lived in West Palm. I know Florida very well, brother. I lived there in the early 70s and went to school like 71, 2, 3 in Stewart, Florida. So anyway, I looked into that, and everybody's interested in, especially if people are butchering and killing somebody. I still say they were wishing, they were creating some dreams, creating some fantasies and trying to turn them in to make the police and everybody believe them. I heard the interview about in jail where Ottis Toole was talking to Henry Lucas, and the police were loving it, right? They were loving it. And now, remember what we talked about, Ottis Toole? Oh, Otis, remember? I love you, and I'll never forget you, and all this. Remember about them, about that eating body parts? Well, Ottis Toole, I think he did some of that, but he's so disorganized and so low IQ. He's not electable. He's not Hannibal Lecter, of course. That man's IQ is probably 40 points above mine, and mine's not that low.
But it was established that at least his grandmother was a generational Satanist, so it is
generational.
It is not like unlikely that they were like engaged in some kind of cult. I mean, they were very.
Well, I just don't see it because of the low IQ and the dirtbag. Now, I don't like to use that term, but they were way too dirtbag, bro, to be anything organized, and that's all I want to say about that. I just don't see. I see them murdering, butchering, and raping, and moving on. There's no organized anything. I remember Ottis Toole. I remember Henry Lucas even said later, after they weren't friends no more, see, they turned on each other finally. From what I was reading later on, when Ottis Toole found out that he killed Becky, he killed his niece, and stabbed her and all that. See, he did that to a lot of people, the liar. I only killed a couple of people, but you want to know about No, I don't know anything about that, except that at my age and my experience in America, I was in the Navy. I worked at all the Navy shipyards up and down the East Coast and out west within 20 years. But anyway, I'm saying that I don't see that hand of now, yeah, there's cults in America, but I don't see him taking on Henry Lucas, okay? For instance, Ottis Toole might clean himself up as a gay man and be polite, but Henry Lucas was not liked by anybody. I mean that. So that's why I'm just telling you, I just don't think they could have been involved in anything organized, in other words. Okay.
Yeah.
But buddy, you might have more information. I'm just saying I don't see how they could have been organized in anything. Otis said that Henry just murdered and raped and killed and moved on. they brought up, that's right, I want to show you. Later, after they got busted, then all this hand of Satan and so forth. And that's why even all the people that I knew that knew him said, yeah, now they're acting. Now they're making up shit. Yeah, but, you know, Lucas did say that he got sick of if they killed somebody, that Ottis was acting weird with the body. Now, he did say that, and I could understand that. I said earlier, when Henry would murder, because Ottis wasn't really a killer yet, when Henry was murdering people, and when when Ottis was watching, it traumatized him and made him weird and freaked out and stuff. And that's what I think. And yeah, he might have cut the body or something. Who knows what he did to the poor thing? But what I mean to say is, for Ottis to do anything organized by himself, that's why him killing that little boy, I'm like, how did he go down there and do all that by himself? But you know, when they said they had a machete in the car with blood in the back and they lost it, oh my golly, what in the hell kind of police work's that? But anyway.
No, no,
Yeah, but
I read the
yeah, go
book
ahead.
by author John Norris, and he describes very detailed that Henry Lucas claims with Ottis Toole that he kidnapped also babies from America to Mexico, and was dealing in snuff films and uh, child pornography, things like that.
Really? Okay, see, buddy, now that stuff, brother, I'm not privy to that police report. And remember, though, I'm open to hearing more,
Hmm.
but I knew Ottis Toole and Henry Lucas, and I just didn't see that organized stuff in there. Now, you know, I knew him in 879. If people can go back and really find out where Toole was, well, see, he's 10 years older than me. Toole could have been active 71, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was in high school uh, and middle school. That could be true, bro, because remember, he was active then. And if anybody could find out where Ottis Toole was, I'd say 70, 71, right on up. Because I met him in 79 and 80.
Yeah.
And he was more used to taking care of the buildings. You know, when we paid rent a lot of times, because there was 30-something units or 40-something, he would stand at the office desk smiling. It's okay, you know, because he said, I got to make sure everybody knows I'm standing here with a gun, and we pay our rent. So, see, he was doing his job. But, yes, if he was doing anything like that, my friend, I would be looking in the early 70s now that you said that. It's very possible, but I didn't even read about that, kidnapping babies and so forth. I wouldn't be surprised, but it would be when I didn't know him. You know, it would be something about, like I said, he was really trying to take care of his job, I guess, to keep it. And then Henry was gone. He come and went a lot, okay? Henry was in and out a lot. But I remember a lot of that year that I knew Ottis Toole, he was around the apartments most of the time. But hell, no, well, they went and killed people because they come back to the neighborhood. I told you that. I'm pretty sure the day they killed that man, because when I read that report, it would be an hour and a half drive, and they were back at the apartment building, and they parked their Cadillac, and we were sitting there, my buddies and I said, oh, here they come. And man, was they disconnected. Ottis was disconnected. I mean, it was that of mice and men. You know, Ottis was running around, like the puppy with Butch. What are we going to do now, Butch? What are we going to do now? And then he come up to then they walked up to us again, and within a little bit, Ottis Toole said, we kill people if we want to. So anyway, again, I was like, man, I wonder if the cops know these guys. Jesus Christ, it's time for me to go. And Henry Lucas that day started about, hey, boy, why don't you put in $10 for beer? I said, I don't drink like you guys do, okay? And listen, this is important because it could have escalated, of course. I'm
Hmm.
younger, you know, what are you, a pussy or something? And I stood there. I wasn't worried about it because I thought, my God, one-eyed guy, what are you going to do? I'm going to beat your ass. You know, you one-eyed guy. Hell, I'm a boxer, dumbass. But he don't really know that, I guess. I mean, I was fit and played sports, and I looked at him. I thought, boy, I'll beat you senseless. But I just smiled, and then Ottis Toole was looking at me and him. He said, Henry, leave him alone. The landlady will throw you off the property again. He's only 21. He said he doesn't drink like we do. Leave him alone. And, buddy, I looked at Otis and thanked him. Like, okay, buddy. I smiled at everybody, and then I walked off the porch. So, see, I missed trouble that day. It's a good thing I didn't punch him in the face, because that's, buddy, Otis told me one time, hey, Terry, hey, don't argue with Henry Lucas, okay? I said, okay, buddy, no problem. But my God, he should have said murder. Then I would have said, okay, buddy, I got you. You know, don't punch him in the face, because then what he does, bro, he'll come back and kill you, is what he'll do. In other words, is what I'm saying. If I'd had any trouble with him, I'd have probably got stabbed or shot within a day or two. You know what I'm saying? He was. I tell you, man, Henry Lucas was a very dangerous person. That's for damn sure. And because I only read later about it, and then I remembered what Otis said, and I went, oh man, Otis was trying to tell people, man, Henry's a dangerous, cold-blooded murderer. Walk right up and shoot a person right in the back of the head or in the front of the head. Not say a word. Not say, oh man, look at that. Not say a word. Just watch him fall. And then Toole said stuff about like he just, you know, start frisking the body, getting the money. And if there's a female around, she's getting raped. Yep. And that's, you know, that's, like I said, man, that's a bad person, brother. I wish they could have at least done something to him.
Do you know anything about the work habits from them for Southeast Color Code?
The work habits?
Yeah.
No, sir, I don't. That I'm not familiar with, that term. Southeast
Color Code.
Color codes?
Yeah.
No, sir, I don't remember that. I don't even remember reading about that. That must have been some more of what they claim.
Okay.
Now, listen, they might have met Satanists. Maybe Otis knew him, and maybe Ottis Toole, because he seems to be the one, like you said, because of his grandmother. But what made him worse was Henry, is what I want to show you. I don't think. Now, if Ottis Toole went to the graveyard, he went there as an IQ of 75, but I don't think he was doing all that he said, because I don't see that derangement in him. I don't see that level of sickness. I think he's acting. In other words, I think he's basically a mentally he's mentally retarded almost, like real close. And so that's what I'm saying, you know. If he could be organized enough to be that Satanist murderer and all that, I have trouble with it, that's all. In other words, he needs an IQ of at least 110 or 120, or I don't think he could even navigate like he's talking and be all that in a bag of chips, right? I'm the serial killer from hell. Well, I'm thinking they're lying, and a lot of us that knew him, even 10 years, it took only 10 years, because, buddy, when it first happened, everybody was still reading about it. What did they do? Or what did they say? And then we all remembered, you know, like I said, that Jonathan, he was a local boy. I never seen him again. And then I never seen Miss Goodyear, but I did go tell her goodbye when I moved. I bought a car. But anyway, yeah.
Did Otis at any time say anything about the Florida Everglades, about paramilitary camps, or a character named Don Metric?
No. Nobody, not to us around the buildings. Okay, no, he never said anything like that. I still believe a lot of that was, if he knew anybody, it was before I met him.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, buddy. I worked, you know, I had a nice job, so I went to work, and I remember the months going by. I don't remember him leaving. I used to call it, as I wrote in my transcripts, what did they do? Take a murder, rape road trip? You know, what'd they do? Go murder, rape, and rob for like 2 or 3 days and then come back to the neighborhood? So maybe they did that, but, excuse me, I don't know if that Cadillac could keep going to the Everglades, but it might have. You know, we don't know the shape of a person's motor and all that. But see, that, I believe it was that gold Cadillac. Excuse me. It was a gold Cadillac that I seen, and then I seen a picture of it. See, I seen the pictures on the news reports, and then they're on the internet. You can look it up. Yeah, that's the car. That's the car they were driving. And then they said they lost it. But yeah, I was wondering how they would have traveled around and got to go with them other, hey man, Satanists who are organized. I mean, come on, buddy. They are organized, brother. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know, you have a couple of street thug, dirtbag, murdering, raping, crazy people. I don't know how they could function in a Satanist society or Satanist group when they're not always butchering babies every day. See, that's what I'm saying. There's no sophistication with Henry and Lucas to be hanging out with the real Satanists. I think they wanted to be, but I don't think they had the qualifications.
No,
And that's
but I
because I
think
knew them.
I think they were more procurers for them. I mean, they were like trafficking.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, there you go. Yes, they could have. No, they could have been that. There you go. Maybe that's what you meant to tell me.
Yeah.
I was thinking of them rubbing elbows, but maybe you're right. Maybe they were only procurement. They were procurement. Oh, that's a horrible thing to say, but yeah, maybe they were doing that. And it would have been before '79 because I didn't know him then. Hell, I met Ottis Toole for 2 or 3 months. I didn't even know about Lucas. Well, I was gone too now, buddy. I never hung around them people. I saw Ottis a lot, but I didn't even see Toole. I didn't even see Lucas for probably a month or two. So, like I said, when I met him, he could have been my friend. I felt sorry for him. Like, oh my God, look at this poor guy.
No.
Look, Jonathan had that cleft lip, but he had surgery. It didn't look real bad or anything. He was a nice person, and I'm meeting people. So here comes Henry Lucas. I thought, my God, look at this poor guy. Well, he can be my friend, and he can shoot one-eye basketball if he wants to. Well, anyway, and that's a true story. And I said, after listening to him talk for 10 minutes, I went, well, I better get out of here now. Because it was all, hey, how about you put in $5 for beer this time? And you get some beer this time. And, hey, their hustle was, Ottis and Henry would say, hey, man, I got $10, $10, $5, let's get beer and whiskey and some smoke and we'll do good. And, hey, guys, bye later. And I left. Well, later, my buddies told me, the guy from Vermont and Jonathan, he said, yeah, but they don't never put in no money. I started laughing. I said, I told you, they're scamming you guys, man. And the bad thing was, after they did it 3 or 4 times, they said, and you know what's sad? They even keep the damn change. I said, oh my God. Yeah, well, Henry was in charge, remember. That's Butch. And Ottis was the little puppy jumping around, running around, laughing. And Henry would say, he would say that they raised $30, and Henry put his $10 back in his pocket, and they only bought enough beer, and then they raised more money again and kept that and left. Oh, and if you complained, Henry might kill you. so
Okay.
that's how that went.
Terry, I'm out of my questions, but I do have one maybe important thing to add. It is interesting to note that Ottis Toole and Henry Lucas were both pardoned by Jeb Bush and George W. Bush. What do you make of that? One of the few people who were actually pardoned to be executed.
I don't understand the question. Please ask again.
Henry Lee Lucas and Ottis Toole were one of the few people who were actually pardoned by then Governor Jeb Bush and George W. Bush.
Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, I'm not going to say nothing about Jeb Bush because that's a whole nother story. I never voted for him ever, but that's another story. But you know why I think he based that, and this is really the truth, because I think I read it. The only reason he based that is because of all the misinformation and lying. I think he was hoping to get more confessions out of him. So that's all I got to say. Like I said, my friend, personally, we wouldn't even be talking. I wish I'd have found him hanging in the trees in 1980. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That little Adam would still be alive. Well, no, that's before I get off of here. That's what I'm saying. He'd have had to kill Adam when he was around me. And
I think it's 1981.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
March of 1981, I think.
Please say again.
It was in March of 1981, the disappearance of Adam Walsh, I think.
Yes, sir. No, that's what I'm saying. I was there. I was there working in the shipyards.
But
I started in 80.
But I actually think that Jeffrey Dahmer is a way better suspect than Ottis Toole. I think Ottis Toole is really a scapegoat.
I think Ottis Toole is trying to be a famous serial killer, even on his deathbed. But you know, sir, one thing I will say, if they had his Cadillac with a machete in the back with blood, I mean, what happened to that? But yeah, then I read about they seen Dahmer at the mall. I mean, come on. And another thing, brother, remember this. Jeffrey Dahmer might not have wanted, it was the only child that he murdered. He did not want to be known as a child murderer.
Absolutely.
Remember how he said, I told you everything. I would tell you this one. No, he don't want to be known as a child murderer.
Yep.
So that's my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I really think. No.
He just backed out of that one. No, I'm not admitting to that.
No.
But I think he did that. Anyway.
Terry, do you have one final thing to add? What you really want to maybe share? Or
well, I might, but it's okay because I got to talk a lot about it. I could share forever. Like I said, I got to meet the gang in the neighborhood. They said stuff. Of course, the gangs do that. They said, my God, if they'd have known what they were doing, they would have been gone. You know, they would have gotten rid of them. I was like, yeah, well, they're not. You didn't get rid of them. We didn't get rid of them. But isn't that something that if something could have happened to Ottis Toole anyway, in just early 1980, I mean, or late 1979, then he could have been Adam's killer.
Yep.
Because that's when I was there too, and I don't remember him leaving like that, but they could have, I remember he had to go by himself. How can a man with an IQ like that, and I know he's not organized, my God, he looks like hell. But then again, I guess you could drive around and look like hell, you know. But that's what I'm saying, that this doesn't, okay, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you so much, Terry. I wish you a good day, and we'll keep in touch.
Have a great day, brother. It was nice to talk to you about what happened years ago.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.